Oh, sorry about that. Hey, Brock, guess what? I got the tickets for Scream. See? I look forward to seeing you when you get here, Friday, Brock McGinnis. Oh, and by the way, what's your favorite scary movie? See you soon.
Well, to answer your question, my favorite horror film-wise would be Friday the 13th, the first one, where the original killer was Pamela Voorhees, and the mantle of Jason Voorhees, the well-known killer of the franchise, would not take up that mantle until the second part, and would get his infamous hockey mask until part 3.
Oh, wow. That's a great answer, and would surprise me and the audience watching this video.
There you go. Oh, by the way, another question for you.
What?
Is it hot under that thing?
Well, actually, yeah, it is pretty hot wearing this mask.
Well,
And you could probably try to guess why I'm in this costume.
that should be obvious, and also given the title that we have seen Scream in theaters. Scream in theaters. And speaking of which, welcome to Movie Review 30, Classic Edition. The title should state what we saw.
Hello, everyone. Ghostface here.
Actually, my friend Dean, under the guise of Ghostface. The previous two suspects, spoilers, were already died during the events of that movie.
So, now... Yeah, I've seen this movie back during my teenage years, so... And then this is your first time seeing it on the big screen, so... I guess what can you say about the film that everyone else said?
Well, I'm not sure what everyone else said, but what I liked about it was, it was basically like Last Action Hero, where it was, somewhat of a parody, unlike, Last Action Hero, but it's more of a love letter as well, while being its own thing. You don't know who the killer is until halfway through the climax. The music's pretty good, both great to listen to and to give you the chills. Yeah. When I saw it, I was creeped out by watching this movie, and I was mortified of the jump scares because I freaking hate those, which is why it will be hard for me to play Five Nights at Freddy's or any horror game with those jump scares.
So I'm guessing you really loved this film?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and now let's get on how the movie starts. And by showing off its like company logos, and you said, and what was it you told me?
Yeah, I wonder if Dimension Films is still around anymore.
Actually, I think they are. They're not no more. But I think Miramax is still going on.
Probably. I mean, let's not forget about the Weinstein fallout, but that's beside the point.
But
So the movie starts off with Drew Barrymore, who would later be of Santa Clarita Diet fame. First in a seemingly innocent movie, innocent scene, but since it's a horror film, we already know what it is.
Yeah, where Ghostface calling Drew Barrymore. Okay, her character's name is Casey, and Ghostface is like, "You never told me your name. Why do you want to know my name? So I can know who I'm looking at."
Yeah, and that's what I like about Ghostface's character.
We'll get to his character in just a sec. Let's go on how the rest of the opening scene goes.
Eventually, she uses her boyfriend as a means of mental torture, which is one of his biggest strengths. But there is also a weakness. While he is good at mentally playing with his victims, he is sloppy while doing the dirty work of killing his victim, but nonetheless, he still gets the job done.
Yes, and when Ghostface gives up the question to her the second okay, the first one was like, name the killer in Halloween. And she gets the first one by saying Michael. But when she gets the second question, the question was, name the killer in Friday the 13th. And she says Jason, but,
Jason does not appear until part 2, as mentioned before, and the actual killer from the first movie is Pamela Voorhees.
And sadly, her boyfriend gets butchered to death.
Well, rather gutted, and then she soon follows.
And, yeah. Where Ghostface breaks into the back of the door by using a chair, and then the girl tries to grab the kitchen knife to try to fight back,
but she's easily finished off. And then her carcass is hung from a tree.
Yeah, and her insides were ripped out, and her parents witnessed.
Saw her dead remains. Hold up. Sorry. And eventually, her death and her boyfriend's death make headline on the local news.
And we are introduced to our main character named Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell.
Yes, and then we over time we kind of learned more about her character, that her mother was brutally raped and murdered.
Yeah, by this, who she presumed was this guy named Cotton Wary, who sadly was framed for not doing this, but we'll get into that later.
And eventually, over time, more victims follow.
And before that, we introduced to other characters like Sydney's boyfriend named Billy, her best friend Tatum.
Yep.
And this horror geek named Randy, and Tatum's boyfriend named Stu, who is played by Matthew Lillard.
Who will later go on to play Shaggy, and up until Lego Dimensions.
And also we are introduced to other characters like Gail Weathers, who you called her April O'Neil, but we'll get to her character later. And we're introduced to Deputy Dewey.
Yes. Another thing, as I mentioned about the film, is that it leaves you guessing who is the person behind Ghostface.
Especially the principal, but we'll get to that later. And then a couple minutes later, she's back to her house, like, trying to...
And then the before mentioned Ghostface tries to come after her, but eventually he leaves, and the boyfriend appears and gets arrested and is put in jail for some time before being shortly released, as there was no evidence to convince that he was in fact the killer.
And then when we're safe around from the police station, her friend and Dewey are about to leave and go to Tatum's house, but then Gail Weathers shows up to interview with Sydney. It's like about how to feel of surviving a murder. It's like,
well, she kept telling them no, but she keeps getting on her nerves. So Gail got fisted. Yeah, and by fisted, I mean right in the face.
Well, she said, "I'll send you a coffee."
Yep, and eventually things seemingly go back to normal, but not in the normal that you would think of.
Oh, jeez, my mask keeps falling off. But it's like I just take it off.
Yeah, good idea.
Yishu, it was pretty hot wearing it.
I gotta admit, you do a pretty good Ghostface.
Yeah, and also, before we move on, let's talk about Ghostface himself.
That's, like I mentioned about Ghostface, you don't know who he is until it is revealed.
But we'll get to the ending part soon, and we'll just talk about his character. I mean, Ghostface is like the most iconic serial killer of all time.
Yeah, and he's basically his own character in his own right.
Yeah, so he's no Freddy Krueger, no Jason, Michael, or even Chucky.
But nonetheless, he stands out among the crowd. While like I said, while he is pretty good in pretty much mentally playing with his victims, he is pretty sloppy. And while he lacks in in killing his victims perfectly, he makes up with that in creativity.
Yeah, and then when Ghostface calls Sidney again, she gets like, "Looks like you got the wrong guy, Sidney. But don't worry, you'll find out who I am, I promise." And then Dewey comes in a little late when the phone's already hung up. He was like, "Hello?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that scene was pretty funny. Yep. And then we come back to school where it's like we're trying to figure out who it was, but then some jerk guy right in the Ghostface costume going on, "Ah!"
Yeah, but those two were quickly expelled after.
Yeah.
By Principal DeFons. Principal DeFons, played by Henry Winkler.
Well, he's like, "You're both expelled. Get out." "Oh, come on, Principal. It's just a joke. It's not fair."
Yeah, but a little bit of a sick joke, and not to mention that the
Yeah.
principal is mentally unstable.
And the principal said, "Fairness would be to rip your insides out. How heartless shits that you are." I was like,
Yeah,
yeah. And at first, you actually thought the principal was Ghostface, but
yeah, knowing his mental instability. However, that has been proven wrong as he is immediately killed by Ghostface.
yeah, in a very stealth style of killing him, like in a Metal Gear game.
Yep,
Right, where he was like, "Ah, ah, ah."
pretty much.
And before he was killed, Sidney was in the girls' bathroom where two of these two girls talk crap about her.
Yeah, and then Ghostface comes back and tries to chase her, but she flees the scene.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure if that was Ghostface in that bathroom scene. What if it was just a student pulling a prank?
Or probably a delusion.
But aside from the point, and then we skip to the video store scene where Randy is was having a conversation with Matthew Lillard's character when we're trying to know who Ghostface is, and there was a famous line where he says, "There's a formula to it, a very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect."
Yep. And Scream is no exception.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there was a scene where the whole town where it's becoming like a ghost town, and Dewey said, it's just like in that movie with that crazy guy with a chainsaw.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Which I have not seen the original, and he hasn't either, but hopefully we could just watch it for our own viewing.
Yeah.
And then, moments later, Sidney and her friend go to a party run by Matthew Lillard's character.
Yep, and this is where much of the butchering begins.
Yeah, or better yet, it's about to go down.
And goes down it does as Ghostface takes down
Sidney's best friend, where, okay, this is like one of my favorite kills of how Ghostface kills Tatum. Tatum thought it was Randy in the costume or other ones, and say, "Oh, you want to play Psycho Killer? Can I be the helpless victim? Please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel." Well, no.
That was the actual serial killer, and she learns this the hard way while she tries to get out of the pet hatch of the garage door. The Ghostface uses it against her as it opens up with her in the air and crushes her to death.
Yeah, and the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, again from Last Action Hero.
"No sequel for you."
Exactly. And then, after the best friend character was killed, we come back to Sidney, who is trying to find her friend, but then her boyfriend shows up.
And then after some sex, which who am I kidding? I'm ace, so I can't state my opinion about it.
Well, me neither. And during that, Randy, there's a very important scene where Randy and all the other students are watching the original Halloween
Yep.
and stating the rules of how to survive in a horror film. Rule number 1.
Never have sex. Sex is a death warrant.
Oops, I realized I was doing this.
All right.
My bad.
No, don't worry. Don't worry. I do that all the time.
And rule number 2, don't do no drinking or drugs.
That is also death.
And rule number 1, never, ever, ever say, I'll be right back, because you won't be back. And then Stu's like, want a beer? You want one? He's like, yeah, sure. I'll be right back! And the whole crowd's like, oh!
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see you dead in the kitchen with a knife. Happy holidays. Well, obviously, it's October, so it makes sense that we saw a horror movie.
Yep. And eventually, Ghostface comes back and stabs the boyfriend and stabs what's her name, Cindy?
Cindy's boyfriend, Billy.
Yeah, Billy, and comes after Cindy. She barely escapes.
So it's Sydney, not Cindy.
Regardless, Sydney barely escapes with her life, and
then when she jumps out of the window, but thankfully she didn't break any bones. And she found her dead friend.
Yeah.
And yeah, seeing her dead body is pretty screwed up.
Meanwhile, back with the deputy and the newscaster, they find Sydney's father's car and go back to the house.
They go back to the house where
Gail's cameraman's throat's been slit, and
and one thing, the cameraman character, his name was Kenny, and when Ghostface killed him, I was like, oh my god, Ghostface killed Kenny!
You bastard!
Yes, we had to go there, guys. We had to. We went there.
That is a law.
And then Gail finds her dead camera guy, and it's like, Kenny, I'm so sorry, but get off my fucking... Oops, sorry, said a bad word.
You can say it.
But then sees Cindy, and then her vehicle goes out of control and slams to a tree.
Yeah.
And Cindy looking all helpless, she's trying to know where Dewey is, and when she finds him, Ghostface yet again stabs him in the back and goes after her. Well, she goes right into the police car, but she can't find the keys, But
Ghostface catches onto her with the keys, but she barely escapes back into the house with Matthew Little's character and the horror movie geek begging him to get inside.
And when she was holding a gun at both of them, she was like, "Fuck you both!" and slams the door.
And Billy manages to go.
Yeah, who turned out to be alive and barely well.
And that's where the situation becomes more and more crazy.
And now here comes the biggest plot twist you all been wanting to hear. When Randy gets back in the house, he's like, "Stu's flipped out! He's gone mad!" And then Billy turns to him and he said, "We all get a little mad sometimes." And go ahead.
Ghostface is two people.
Yes, Billy's one of them. Again, he shoots Randy right through the chest, and he said, corn syrup, just like the pig's blood in Carrie. And then Cindy tries to run and then sees Stu, and then Stu brings out some kind of voice changing thing. He said, "Surprise, Sydney."
Yep.
You know, I would take my mask off earlier, but it was just too damn hot. But again, I gotta say, this was like the best plot twist ever in a horror film.
Yep, and what makes it better is you don't know what's going to happen next, since now the cops aren't there to help her, and her father is now confined in duct tape.
And they're trying to, it's like you said, Billy and Stu were both Ghostface.
Yep.
And try and make the father the suspect, and Cindy tries to tell why did they killed her mother.
Well, it turns out Sydney's mother was having an affair with his father, and that led to his mother leaving them. Yeah,
and it's actually a pretty good revenge scheme.
Yep, before they could get what they desired, the Gale comes in to save the day, but only for a few seconds. As the safety is on, they take it from her, knock her out, and while that's happening, Sydney escapes, takes on the Ghostface disguise, and kills.
Yes, she takes the Ghostface mask and stabs Billy with the umbrella. And I'm not sure if umbrellas work like that, but who cares?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like it's almost like a payback, like stealing the mask, and it's like, that's what you get.
Yep.
And then Stu comes in and goes, well, oh yeah, but before Billy gets stabbed with an umbrella, he just goes nuts. Like, he's like, fucker, where are you? You fuck!
Yep.
Yeah, both of them are completely insane. And Stu who was stabbed earlier by Billy, who was like, I feel a little woozy here, man. And he's like, did you really call the police, Sydney? You bet your sorry ass I did. My mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me. And now, fast forward back to Stu going after Sydney. Wait, what? Almost choking it, and he's like, I always had a thing for you, Sid. And then she said, in your dreams, and what?
And gives them a taste of irony as she puts the TV right on his face.
And gets electrocuted, and he freaking dies.
Only leaving Billy left.
Who turned out to be alive, and also the horror geek is still alive. And he's like, I'm so happy to be a virgin. And then Bill comes like, pfft. Yeah. Oh yeah, one little story, when turns out Billy was still alive, a couple of audience, who were a bunch of group of girls, just screamed like, ah!
Yeah.
Well, and then before Billy could try to deliver the final blow with the knife, Gale
comes in, saves the day, shoots him, but not before trying to get one last scare, which results in Sid shooting Billy in the head.
And yes, it was Cindy pulled the trigger by shooting him right in the freaking head. And what did you told me earlier? He what? It's like
he didn't get ahead in life. Ah. Ow.
And Randy said, this is the moment when Dead Kill comes back to life for one last scare. He's like, oh!
Yep.
And Sydney says, not in my movie. And that's pretty much the end of Ghostface. And turns out the deputy is okay, but going to the hospital for right now to recover from his stabbing injury. And then Gale Weathers starts to report the whole...
Yeah, and turns out Cindy's father's fine.
Yep. So, and our heroes live happily ever after. For now.
Yeah, and that was Scream.
And, again, what can you say about the film that had...
I can see why it's a classic. It's a love letter to slasher films while being its own thing. The music really fits well.
The music really creeped me out when I was listening to it.
And not to mention, the villain is his own character rather than just another archetype.
Yeah. One thing, this movie saved the horror genre pretty well.
Yep.
And yes, I think that's all we've got to say about the movie. But before we wrap it, I think we could probably talk about the trailers.
Yeah, there's A Quiet Place, Black Widow.
But yeah, Quiet Place Part 2. But you haven't seen the first one. But would you like to?
Yeah.
And we really, really want to see Black Widow.
Yeah, but sadly it's until like 2021 or 2022.
Please, don't give them ideas. And also we had a trailer for this movie called Freaky, starring Vince Vaughn. And I told you this about before the trailer. And what'd you thought of that trailer?
It looks pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie.
Yep, and... Yeah, I mean, I love the idea. It's sort of like a horror version of Freaky Friday.
Yep.
And now, what was that fourth trailer? Oh yeah, the one with Ryan Reynolds, Free Guy.
Yep.
It's sort of like a video game.
Yeah, I might give it a shot.
But do you think it'll be any good?
Probably.
Oh yeah, one thing. Let's talk about the Ghostface mask. I mean,
Yeah.
if so, most of you would know that this mask was loosely based off of that famous painting, The Scream.
Yep.
Oh,
Cheesy, but still infamous.
I mean, the irony, since the movie is called Scream,
Yep.
and also since that film became a huge success at the box office, it spawned 3 sequels and a TV series that has Pidge.
Yep.
Yes, Pidge from Voltron.
Legendary Defender.
You know, funny thing is that season 3 has this one actor named Tony Todd, who was Candyman.
Mm.
And heck, him and Pidge were in this one slasher film called Hellfest.
Ah.
I mean, the irony.
Yep.
So,
I don't know what else we can say.
yeah, so if you are a fan of horror films, definitely check this out.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
And it's definitely a good way to get started on the slasher movie horror genre.
And it could be a good stuff for people to get people into horror movies.
Yep.
So yeah, I think we're gonna have to end this on an intermission, just like last time.
Yep. This is Rock McGinnis from Lightpost Films.
And Ghostface. Well, actually, Dean.
And have a signing off and have a good rest of your day.
Hasta la vista, baby.